Good day, good day.
Greetings, everybody. Hang out for just a few minutes here. I'm hoping we get some people on. I put a notice out plenty of times, so we've actually got a lot of pages open to go over, but so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on them. But generally, when we're going through these codes, Reading the titles alone will give you a lot of information in a basic plain writing sense. So think of it in that terms and then go from there. This is how I do most of my research. End up popping up a lot of windows and then going back through and reading them and finding specific parts that coincide. We're going to hang out just a couple more minutes here. Okay, greetings everybody. Of course, as always, and of course, like I mentioned in the post, share. Important part about what I do is all the information that's out there on the public domain, and it's free. And that correlates with the biblical scripture that if I get it for free, I'm supposed to pass it on for free. It also correlates with Isaiah 4, verse 6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And it also correlates with the first duty of lawful notice, or in law, is legal notice. And so now that you have notice and knowledge of what's out there, you're supposed to pass it on to. So feel free to share. That's what it's about, is free dominion. So we'll get started. We're going to start down here with the entire executive service. Please verify somebody that you can see my screen.
Yes.
Thank you.
See it.
Awesome. So when we see the entire executive service, civil service, we're talking about administrative personnel. So even with the executive civil service, like I've told you people, these courts are administrative courts only. Period. The only judicial review that will ever be brought about is if you bring that judicial review yourself. No other way. And it says, subchapter Civil Service Regulations, Accepted Service. It says, consequently enough, the first one is positions of chaplain and chaplain's assistant. Notice, however, in plain writing, these are both capitalized, so they have specific definitions, and therefore we need to qualify those definitions according to 1 USC 1 by point of objection, clarification, point of law, whatever it is you need to do to verbalize that this is obviously not the same chaplain I know of, as in reverently, chaplain -teeth, lowercase. And it's got reserved. Why it's reserved, I don't know. Maybe we can check that. Maybe there's a place telling us why it's reserved. And then it says C, positions. And I want you people to realize, we're not talking about person yet, are we? We're talking about the position. You know, the seat of government, whereupon persons are enacted by the people sitting in that seat, to which appointments are made by the president without confirmation by the Senate. Sounds pretty willy-nilly to me. Sounds like he could hire any one of his friends through that appointment, whether they be qualified through a educational system or even just very knowledgeable. We'll see that later.
Hey, Keith, I hate to interrupt, but can we get everybody to mute out because there's some background stuff?
That better?
Yes.
All right. Positions, and then it mentions attorneys. Now, wait a minute. Is an attorney a position? Think about this, people.
Doesn't this mean that they have the position of attorney available for this section? Is that not what that
Yep.
says?
Every time somebody signs a document making a transfer of some sort, they are in fact acting in the position of an attorney, even if they're not named in person as an attorney.
Because they're attorney. They're
They
attorney property,
are in
right?
fact in the position of attorney because they are the ones attorneying. The beneficiary is not required to do anything, including accept the grant. A beneficiary doesn't even have to accept the grant. He can say, no, thanks. Give it to somebody else. Next one, very important. Law clerk trainee positions. You guys realize that clerk of the court is in fact a law clerk. Appointments under this paragraph shall be confined to graduates of recognized law schools or persons having equivalent experience. You know, somebody that's really knowledgeable, like I just mentioned, that we would see here. We're seeing here. Or persons having equivalent experience. Now, I've been keeping my own financial records since I was 10 years old and got my first paper route. How's that for clerk experience, bitches? Excuse me. The next one, as we see, this is, and then the next one is H reserved again. And then it goes on into temporary and less than full-time positions. See, those positions is what it's all about. And you're not in the position of a political seat, wherein by an oath of office is required in order to perform the functions of the military provisional government, extending its services by commercial means. Not qualified. I'm the beneficiary as the end user of that provisional government, whom they are by obligation and duty required to protect. The next one is the entry of the records. Remember, we talked about that birth registration and its assignment of a social security number to a newborn child who owes a debt to the United States as a Medicare qualified government employee. Improper entry. Right from the beginning. Nil, null, void, vacate, nunc pro tunc, ab initio, an impossibility. Entire public record with that name and number is in fact wrong and has caused many wrongs. Any person described in 163.2a with reference to an import transaction wherein the data elements were imported through the Customs Bureau to establish a financial issuance of a military defense document through the birth registration. Shall be prepared to produce or transmit to Customs in accordance with 163.6 any entry records which may be demanded by Customs. Everyone born in every hospital in these states is required to file a customs form out to clarify nationality, whether they be alien or immigrant. They have to be domestic transactions, which are civilians, as executive civil servants or general. In other words, they apply to everybody until the presumption is broke. That's what the birth registration is. It's a general registration until you break the presumption. You either break the presumption by denying the incorporation or following through with the incorporation of the corporate entity that was established. You either incorporate it or you deny it. One or the other. You cannot serve two masters. In regards to the record keeping, under that very same one, 163.2, persons required to maintain records, I don't maintain records for any person but myself. And it is never in all uppercase letters. Not myself. I have a faith-based union in all uppercase letters, but that's a different person. Record keeping not required for certain travelers. Having physically cleared the customs facility. That's when you leave that hospital. Physically cleared that customs facility. Not the customs border or the customs agent or the customs facility, which enacted the entry into the customs records. A traveler who made a baggage or oral declaration upon arrival in the United States never occurred. I've never traveled into the United States. I've never been to that 10 square miles of Washington, D.C. I've never seen the corporate entity known as United States in Washington, D.C., where it's supposedly located.
So that doesn't, if that includes federal territories supposedly within or their insular possessions, is it possible that you were on an insular possession and
that's all it is territorial possession. If they have territorial possession that doesn't exist because the birth registration is false through that territorial possession of a state record entered in through a custom facility in that state, how can it be applicable? And
I know a guy who said,
and I'm not the one that imported that record to the United States. The state is. The state is the importer of the record. They exported it from the United States because they imported it from the county. So now the state and the United States are importers. They're the ones that are holding the records that were exported from somewhere else.
What of the small percentage of people that are born, presumably in that 10 square miles?
Still, it has to be an incorporated entity. And so it still has to be at the age of majority. You either accept the incorporation or you deny it and conduct your affairs privately. See, the acceptance of that incorporation is an alien investment. Alien investment. Because if you accept that incorporation, you can invest in the United States corporation and you have to have a hold harmless indemnity agreement. That sounds like internationally protected person. And there's already one in place. Why are they not following it? So let's get on to the next one. Will not be required to maintain supporting records regarding non-commercial merchandise acquired abroad outside of their territorial jurisdictions. See, if I acquire things not in person and not by using the position of the person, and I acquire them in private, do they have any jurisdiction anywhere? No, it was not recorded, and I am not required to maintain supporting records for them because I didn't do it in support of them. Period. Very plain language. acquired abroad, which falls within the traveler's personal exemptions, which is covered by a flat rate of duty. They are the contracting members. The contract is already in place. They already imported and exported. Those are the contracts they are involved in, and they are the ones that did so unconscionably without letting anybody know that upon the age of 18, it is very important that everybody understand and comprehend that if they do not incorporate this established corporation and invest in the United States corporation, they must deny it and create their own trust. No other way about it. It's the only way you can partake of that public trust is by becoming a contractor to it, investing in it. The next one, data elements that we talked about, and I'm going to run this real briefly because, again, here it tells us the importer of the record foreign trade zone, Social Security number, or CBP agent, assigned number of the entity liable for the payment. They assign the number, and they are liable as the importer for the person, and the person is the one that carries the liability. And when you sign in UCC 3-412, I believe it's, I'll pull that up again, but it says the authorized representative giving an unambiguous authorized signature is not liable for the person or on the instrument for the person named in the instrument. Again, reaffirming that the person, the entity, is liable for the payments of duties. Not me. The person named in the instrument, that all caps name, and it belongs to them. They're the ones that created that corporation, and we can either incorporate it or dismiss it. We can be the beneficiary of that, or we can say, no, thanks. I'm going to take benefit of what's already there. Free. I'm not going to invest under a risk management insurance scheme. I don't need insurance. And again, these numbers, or these name, the name and number identify the record, and a widely recognized commercially accepted identification number for this party may be provided in lieu of the name and address. First of all, if the record is only pertaining to the name and number, then where does the address come in? The address comes in because we've been indoctrinated to give the name and address instead of recognizing that the name and number identify the record, and we only need to give the number. It's all indoctrination to not follow what is plain and true. 19 USC 81N, operation of trade zone as a public utility. They are utilizing your actions, your securitization of signatures on documents that aren't qualified. They're using that through the cost of custom service. You're paying for those duties that they're supposed to be paying for. And why? Because you're a resident of the zone. Well, how can you be a resident of the zone? No person shall be allowed to reside within the zone except federal, state, or municipal officers or agents whose residence presence is deemed necessary by the board. Board which is established to carry out the provisions of this chapter. To carry out means to enforce the provisions. Who is the enforcement of the provisional law? The military. It's the Board of Commissions, the Military Board of Commissions. Yep. Customs, operated through the naval forces. And you have the Coast Guard, which guards the coast, and you have the Marines that secure all of the inland boundaries through post offices known as inland marine substations that operate in interstate commerce, transportation. And there you have your marine insurance, inland marine insurance, and transportation interstate commerce act enacted through motor vehicle insurance by indoctrinated residents that are serving two masters under dual citizenship of being a resident and a United States citizen, when in fact they are neither. Form I-526, immigrant petition by alien investor. Everything the U.S. does in regards to those foreign trade zones is a grant of a foreign trade zone to the states that ceded to the jurisdiction of the United States. That's why they grant them a trade zone. The states grant a trade zone or sell an internal trade zone to the counties, and they in turn do the same thing for the municipalities. Federal, state, or municipal officers or agents thereof. Those are the only people permitted to reside in the zone. Reside. And you, I'm my grant. No, I'm his grant. Yep. I'm my own grant. I give my own authority. I wish to invest in your grants that have no authority. It's all fraud. I wouldn't recommend filling that out. This is just information I come across in my research that I'm putting out there, and all these links I'll post. List of individuals with lawfully present status for eligibility and enrollment purposes in the exchange individual market. That's what your alien investor is. An exchange individual market. All you're doing is transferring property of persons. And you do it by your signatures. That's all it's required is a signature, and you get transfer personal property in their system. Me, I grant anything that was given to me under his grant to anybody else because I recognize that. In their grant, they're saying you can't grant this any further. That they're saying the purpose of buying this car from this car lot is for the purposes of reselling. You have to really comprehend what those exchange individual markets are. If you don't, I wouldn't recommend using them. Adjustment of status. Adjustment of status to that of person. See, your status was that of a live being, a living soul. As soon as you were born and God gave you the breath of life in your nostrils and man became a living soul, they changed that status through this paperwork to that of a person for admittance for permanent residence. And at 18, when you don't take upon that permanent residence by incorporation through the correct process of taking an oath so that you can then perform the functions of public office, which is interstate commerce, all commercial transactions, all commercial items, enacting the statutes and federal executive orders, then you ain't got nothing. This is what they're using against you. Quit it. There are so many elements that you have to fulfill in order for any of this to apply. Eligibility. General, any alien who is physically present in the United States. You guys realize that's an impossibility. You realize you can never physically be in the United States. Never. No way in hell can you physically be in the United States. And saying goes, you can never physically be in the state of Iowa. You can't. They create these impossibilities in, on, and for the public record in plain writing. What is the United States? 31 CFR 3002, 15A. The United States is not a government. It is a federal corporation. Exists on paper only, people. Ineligible aliens. Eligibility. Aliens and nationality. Executive office or immigration review. Before you can be an alien investor, you must go through an immigration review. Department of Justice. Ineligible aliens. The following categories of aliens are ineligible to apply for adjustment for status to that of lawful permanent resident alien under Section 245 of the Act. Any non-preference alien who is seeking or engaging in gainful employment in the United States, who is not the beneficiary of a valid individual or blanket labor certification issued by the Secretary of Labor, or who is not exempt from certification requirements under 12.8b of this chapter. The birth registration allows for the certification of live birth so that you can call up the state or contact the state in a communicative way and say, hey, I want a birth certificate. And they'll send you one. Certification requirement of Section 212. Certification requirement. How can you certify that which is false and an impossibility? You cannot certify anyone to be physically present in the United States. Can't be done. Therefore, any certification is false. Fix the language. I got about 10 minutes and I've got a lot more screens to go, so we'll probably be opening another one. Be prepared, folks. When this one shuts down, I'll just reopen another Zoom. It will not be the same Zoom unless somebody can tell me how to reopen the same Zoom real quick. Anyway, we're going to go on to the next one. Please do so in chat if you know how. Aliens not required to obtain labor certification. Certification requirement we just read. Aliens not required. How do you express that you're an alien? Well, that person you claim in your courts has never been incorporated, proving that is not viable. And therefore, I must, by reason and logic, be alien. Because I can't possibly be physically present in the United States. I must be alien to the United States because the United States is a fiction. It can only exist within me. I cannot exist within it. Period. Continuous unlawful residence since 1982, and this is what we're doing when we file that SS5, when we do the driver's license, and we register our children for school and go get a job, whether it be at McDonald's or for the United States government, either one. It's all putting information on the record as though we're a lawful resident of one of those zones, when in fact we are not, because we have never taken an oath of a federal, state, or municipal officer or agent. Not once. And can't. Period. The alien must establish that he entered the United States. Are you a federal official? The fuck you are. You entered the United States? Yep, the fuck you did. So anyway, before January 1st, 1982, and that he has resided continuously in the United States in an unlawful status. How can you be residing in the state and in the United States? My pose is that the record identified by the name and address was entered improperly, and no one, in fact, resides anywhere. According to your code, that is an impossibility, and either through reason and logic, you will admit that, or through your insanity, dismiss it as if though I'm wrong. Read it. Get English majors in here and have them read it. You're only competent in the law. And what is that law? The twisting of the words. And the twisting of the words, folks, really only happens in your mind as well, just like the United States. Because this is plain writing. This is plain writing. Again, if anybody finds me wrong, please point it out to me, because I don't want to be the babbling idiot how you're looking like a dumbass idiot. But I think this plain reason and logic. You have to reside within the United States physically. And I find that physically impossible. Ask a doctor. So they're incompetent in the English language if they say yeah. And therefore, if they're incompetent in the English language, how the fuck can they, how the hell can they competently read the medical scriptures that they're abiding? Are they twisted? Are they not written in English? Is there some kind of magical spelling there? I mean, I really question these things, people. Authority to apply for asylum. Any alien who is physically present in the United States, again, irrespective of such alien status. Irrespective of such alien status. So again, it's not us that needs to be corrected. It's the record. It's the status. And they're the ones that have it wrong. That status don't even apply to me. I don't know what status is. All I know is I fear not, for I have been redeemed, and he has called me by thy name. I am his. I so nothing. May apply for asylum in accordance with this section, or where applicable, section 1225B of this title. (1225A) or 1225 is inspection by immigration officers. Aliens treated as applicants for admission. That's that birth registration when mom filled out the application. And we'll be back with the rest of this after our break. Right now, I'm going to relieve this screen and check out comments to see if there's anybody know how I open this Zoom back up with this, keep this open, or do I need to open another Zoom? We got 3 minutes and 20 seconds left. Let me see here.
Sorry, Keith. Wish I could help.
Well, I'm checking settings and stuff and see if I can do anything about it, but I don't see anything yet. But in the meantime, like I said, I got a bunch more stuff we got to go over, so I'm just going to open the Zoom up again, however many times we need to, because it goes straight from the entire executive civil service all the way up to service supervision of litigation, interest of the United States in the pending suits in all these courts, the national security, which coincidentally, we're finding out is Fish and Wildlife Services. So you might be amazed when we come back. No questions or anything at this point? Yes, flora and fauna. We're talking about mammals and wildlife. And that's actually what we're described in their codes. Funny enough, those are scientific terms too. So we still have to be careful of those, but they're closer to any of their legal definitions.
So the labor certification, that's referring to your mother going into labor, and that's what they've certified as the birth certificate, but it's just a different word for it.
Yep. They entered you into a labor force of corporations that can be incorporated. However, nobody incorporated it, and therefore everything's being operated in fraud. Because as an adult, the states aren't checking to see if that thing's been incorporated. They're just bringing charges against you, where in fact the diplomatic channels of notice are supposed to be directed to the United States, the party, the indispensable and unnamed party in interest.
Right. Well, that's part of that whole, pointing out how you can't be that name is having that birth certificate and saying, look, the state of Kansas owns it, not me. It's on their certificate.
It's an unlawful political grammar conversion as well.
Right.
Mom put the name down as upper and lowercase, and here's this affidavit or certification that says it's an all caps name all of a sudden. I'm sorry, you can't do that. You can't do that without explaining why.